because you can make a ton of money and still not be happy. But if you make a ton of money and you put the pieces in place and you know you got security far beyond the month, far beyond next year, far beyond 3 years, 5 years from now, whether you got kids or not, and you got money working for you, that's what the f I call happiness. You know, I got this loan officer on my team. I know goddamn well they ain't watching this because they don't move like we do. And I was like, yo, man, why is your production so low? You know what their response was, man? Guess. Their response was, I'm just trying to dig deep and find out my why. Like, how do I stay motivated? How do I stay disciplined? How do I operate at a high capacity and continue to want it? Boo-boo, man, you gotta figure that shit out on your own. Granted, this person's a bachelor, but they're like 38. Still got a roommate, still renting a house, still, you know what I mean? No kids, no wife, but that's the exact reason. Like, what are you gonna do? What kind of legacy are you gonna leave behind? And whether you decide to make a family or not, whether you decide to build an empire or not, the bottom line is, do you wanna live limited or do you wanna live with constraints? Do you wanna live within shackles? Do you wanna live within these boundaries, these bumpers? And you gotta make decisions based on what you can afford, based on what you can feel comfortable with, right? And so you got these budget apps, right? Like, oh, I made only $2,000, so I can only spend $2,000. Man, all that shit. I'm talking about getting yourself to a point where you don't need to worry about that. And granted, money isn't everything, right? That's not the message, right? I'm not saying that you need money to be happy. You don't need money to be happy, because you can make a ton of money and still not be happy. But if you make a ton of money and you put the pieces in place and you know you got security far beyond the month, far beyond next year, far beyond 3 years, 5 years from now, whether you got kids or not, and you got money working for you, that's what the f I call happiness. Because when you look at it in perspective, especially me, like I work in the finance industry and I take a lot of interviews with people trying to apply for loans, and I see these people living check to check. You know, I get bank statements all the time, and people are really hurting out there, right? And that gives me more appreciation because I'm not in that position right now. Knock on wood, right? I never get in that position. I've been in that position. And maybe it's just the way I grew up, you know? If you could relate with me, maybe you grew up with hand-me-downs. You grew up in an area where the top person was someone else outside of your family. Like, they were living good and you watched from afar and you're like, man, they got all the toys, they got all the vacations, they got the nice cars. I didn't grow up in that. If you could relate or not, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, like, we're in a position right now where we can determine how the our day-to-day is. And so my bottom line is, man, hope you understand that. And I hope you really put in the action, put in the effort to really determine and control your outcome, because it really is up to you. You see what I'm saying? So there's a lot of resources that are around right now that wasn't around.